Hello, welcome to Politics and Parlance, where we muddle through the headlines in search of punchlines and talk about ways to make good trouble and lift the spirits of people working to save our democracy. My name is Christy, and I want to thank you for sharing your time with me. One of the goals that I have for the podcast is to help people in my community feel empowered to get out there and use their voices for change. I've been doing a lot of research about activism and advocating for change in my community, and really learning more about how people with different types of experiences and abilities can use their talents to help with the resistance movement. When I started looking into this, Red, Wine, and Blue was one of the first organizations that popped up in my search. It didn't take me long to figure out that this organization is all in, and they're very active throughout the United States. In my local Facebook group, I found Kimberly Biondi, one of the North Carolina team leaders for Red, Wine, and Blue, and I was delighted to learn that she is part of my local community. So I asked her if she would be willing to come on the podcast and talk with us a little about how we can use our gifts to get involved and start some good trouble. I am so excited to talk with her today. She has a wealth of experience as a fierce advocate for the community, and she's really an inspiration. So let's dive in. Okay, we are live.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the introduction, Christy. That was lovely.
Oh, yeah. So, and I know we had talked about this before. So this is Kimberly with
Hello.
Red, Wine, and Blue, and we're neighbors, but online right now. So, so again, what I wanted to do was just kind of have a place where people could come on and get confident and just get some ideas of things that they can do in their space right now. So,
Sure.
I know you had just said a good bit of this, but tell me a little bit about what you do and your elevator speech and just Red, Wine, and Blue.
All right. Well, my elevator speech for Red, Wine, and Blue is this. Whenever people ask me, well, what is Red, Wine, and Blue? I always say, well, we are a woman-run, woman-led organization. We empower and educate women to find their political voice wherever it is comfortable for them in whatever capacity that it means for them. We know politics can be a chaotic and confusing place. We know it can feel very unfriendly. Um, and we know that a lot of people can feel very daunted by it.
Yes.
And so, what we do is we offer a political on ramp. Um, a way for people to get informed, get educated, get their voices heard, and get their voice out there in the community and get active, whatever that means to them and however they feel comfortable. So, if that means right now writing postcards, great. If that means calling their senators and representatives, fabulous.
Right.
If that means, for some people, finding out who their senators and representatives are,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know that. If that means going to a school board meeting
Mhm.
and speaking up there, that's brave.
Yes.
That's something that a lot of people have never done, and it's a hard thing to do. If
And
it
it's a tough
means
crowd.
and it is. They're
Yeah.
they're the crowd in your own backyard. They're the ones you're gonna be running into at the grocery store. That's the toughest crowd of all sometimes. If it means supporting a local candidate and coming out full force behind them, that's wonderful. And if it means, throwing your hat in the ring and running for school board or state senator or city council yourself, wonderful. We're here to support that for you. I want to stress that we are a nonpartisan organization.
Mhm.
We are anti-extremist. So
Mhm.
if you are a candidate or a person who is in favor of our public schools, who is in favor of common sense laws for the people,
Right.
then this is an organization for you.
And that's what I found out so ideal about it, because it's people keep trying to fit these square pegs into round holes, and there
Mhm.
needs to be a place, especially right now, where more people are welcome in.
I
You know,
agree.
and I mean, working with different political parties in the past, I found that there was I forget the word that they use, like a purity test. There's a lot of that, you
Yes,
know?
and that's something that we need to get away from.
Yeah.
We don't need to have that. We don't need to worry about who voted for whom in the past. Um, a lot of times politics is tribal, especially with
Yeah.
what goes on at the top of the ticket. A lot of
Mhm.
times people treat who's president the way we treat our favorite sports ball team. You know, we
Right.
root for Team R or Team D. Um, and that's why I heard you say when they go low, we go local. We
Mhm.
do focus a lot on local politics because the partisanship is not as pervasive there, where people get very concerned about the R or the D after somebody's name. With national level politics, they're not as married to that idea with their school board or city council race. So when you talk to your friends about this candidate that you really like for school board or mayor or your county commissioner, they're much more likely to listen to you
Mhm.
because one, you're their friend and they trust your opinion, and
Mhm.
two, they're not as partisan about a race like that. There's
Yeah.
not as much involved, so you can have a lot of success like that.
And that actually helps change my view about it too, because, like, here in our county, the elections are nonpartisan, and I
Yes,
guess
except for school board, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
So I think my philosophy kind of going into it was, well, everybody's partisan. Well, and maybe they are, but I think what surprised me was at that first meetup that I went to, talking with, oh, her name was Ingrid?
Ingrid Nurse, yes.
Yes, yes, and she was telling me about the gentleman that was running for mayor, and it
Steve
was funny
Morse.
because she was like, but he's Republican," and I'm like, "Tell me about him." I mean, that intrigued me because
Mhm.
you know, she it was kind of one of those, "But it's okay," and I'm like, "Well, it's tell me about him," you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, the fact that he showed up
Mhm.
at that meeting seemed so different from what's happening really in the rest of the country, so, I mean, that spoke volumes to me, and,
Right.
I think just with the dynamic around it and we're in a very I think we're in a pretty red county.
Um, Cabarrus County is not quite as red as you think.
Okay.
It's trending purple, and actually, we have more unaffiliated voters than we have Republican voters,
Mhm.
and more than we have Democratic voters. Now, it is true that a lot of unaffiliated voters will break largely one way or another. But it is
Yeah.
also true that in North Carolina, North Carolinians are famous or infamous, depending on how you feel about it, for splitting the vote. So in
Mhm.
2008, when North Carolina went for Barack Obama for the
Mhm.
president, um, they also voted for Pat McCrory, a Republican, for governor.
Nobody surprised.
And when North Carolina voted for Trump in
Mhm.
2016, they also voted for Roy Cooper.
Roy Cooper. Yeah.
Yep. And they tend to split the vote between lieutenant governor and governor, which is why we had Roy Cooper and Mark Robinson. Um, so North Carolinians do tend to split their vote more or less evenly between Republican and Democrat, and that's been a long time trend. And I think it's because many people feel it balances the ticket. And
Mhm.
again, this is not me saying one way or the other, but a lot of people feel that, well, this will balance the extreme of the one party and the other, and
So what
it's
is your take on that? Because that's something that I've kind of ascribed to for quite a while now. So what is your take? Just opinion, it doesn't have to be,
okay.
are you a straight ticket person or?
No, I'm not generally a straight ticket person.
Mhm.
Now, having said that, 20 or 30 years ago, I could see a lot of sense in splitting a ticket because
Mhm.
Um, a lot of people do feel that a government that moves slowly and doesn't get a lot done
Yeah.
can't really take away people's rights and can't really do a lot to raise taxes and can't really do a lot to make big changes, and a lot of people feel very comfortable with that. And since both parties, 20 or 30 years ago might have felt very close in their philosophies, you could see a lot of sense in that. I am going to say, though, that one party has definitely trended towards extremism
Right.
and fascism. And splitting a ticket now
Mhm.
really doesn't make a lot of sense because you are essentially splitting a ticket between, um, a normal quote unquote political party
Mhm.
and then an authoritarian fascistic political party. And that
Mhm.
that doesn't do us any good.
No, no. So just backing up a little bit too, I know you said you used to be a teacher.
Yes, for 21 years.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about that, and did that kind of funnel you into this, or what?
Oh, yes, most definitely. So I taught in at Central Paris for 21 years, and in fact, teaching
Grade
is
school.
why. Oh yeah, yeah. Teaching is why I moved to North Carolina. I was living in Philadelphia in 1997 or 1996,
Wow.
and a couple things decided me. The blizzard of '96. I was I
Okay.
was done with
You won't get that
Pennsylvania
here.
and its weather, and the fact that, teaching jobs at that time in Pennsylvania were at a premium. My own English
Oh,
teacher from high school worked at her job for over 50 years. It took her that long to retire. I had a science teacher who I wanna say died in the classroom because he stayed at it for so that's not funny really, but,
at least some science.
well, right, but
Yikes.
the thing is that in Pennsylvania, you couldn't get a teaching job. You had to sub for a while and then maybe get offered a teaching job somewhere if you were lucky. So
Yeah.
this was in pre-internet days, so I called around
Mhm.
using a phone book that I got from the Philadelphia Public
Imagine
Library.
that.
I know. I called and tried to find places where they needed teachers, and I used rumor and, things I'd heard, and I narrowed it down to Tennessee, Georgia, Virginia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, and UNC Charlotte got back with me first, and they were nice and polite on the phone, and they said, "Oh, yes, honey, we sure could use some teachers. Yes, you should definitely apply." So I applied and I got in for their teaching certification program, and I
And
found
that's
out
exactly
that
how people talk down here too.
and they sounded so sweet and nice,
Mhm.
and I found out later on that I could work and get paid as a teacher while getting my certification, so I did
Mhm.
that. And then, I moved down here in '97. I got a teaching job. I met the man who became my husband, and yeah, we settled in Concord in 2005 and bought a house and had our kids and everything else. And I never knew the names of anybody on the school board,
Oh, wow.
county commissioner. It never occurred to me. I was so busy with everything going on. I couldn't have told you the name of a state rep or a senator or anybody. I knew the president, vice president, and I think my 2 North Carolina senators,
Wow.
and I knew the Secretary of Education, and I called it a day, I thought that was good enough. And then
Mhm.
around 2011, the Republicans won control of the NCGA, the General Assembly, and they won a supermajority. And I had heard prior to that, that the Republicans didn't much like teachers. They
Or
didn't
union.
like the
Yeah.
NEA. And they didn't much like teachers, but I didn't really think about that too much. I had children to occupy me and, you
Mhm.
know, students to occupy me and a lot going on. But I pretty quickly found out that Republicans, at least in 2011 and 2012 in North Carolina, did not like teachers because they immediately started doing a lot of things. They cut teacher longevity pay. So all the other state employees in North Carolina continue to get longevity pay, but teachers no longer get longevity pay. That was one of the
And then
first things they did.
something's happening with the pension too?
Yep.
Mhm.
Let's see, the state healthcare plan essentially, I think, is out of the money, but that's going to affect all employees. They couldn't just do it to teachers this time. But teachers' healthcare premiums have been rising for years, but our pay has not been rising, um, enough to
Mhm.
keep up with that.
Yeah.
So there's that. Um, they took away master's pay for teachers. They took away, what else did they take away? They took away the healthcare for retirees after 2020. So if you, yeah, I know. They took away a lot of different things. Just chipped away at it very gradually. They took away tenure. Um, so if you were coming in as a newer teacher, you didn't get tenure. And I know a lot of people think, oh, well, that just meant that, teachers could never be fired no matter what they did. No, it meant that you could only be fired with cause. They couldn't just
Mhm.
let you go. As it happened, because I started teaching in 99, I had tenure and they couldn't take that away because that was something that was ruled by a judge as a possession.
Mhm.
So teachers hired before, I think, 2013 retained tenure unless they moved counties.
Okay.
Um, so this is a very long answer to your question. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
no, I
but
mean, but it sounds like it threw you into having
it
to be an
well, okay,
activist.
yeah, it was slow. It was a slow process. So around 2017 or 2018, after many years of not getting any kind of significant raise from the state, some colleagues approached me and said that they were going to talk to the school board and ask if they could get um, a raise from the school board for in our supplement, because one thing that North Carolina does, the state determines teacher pay, but the
Mhm.
county can give you an extra supplement, and that's
Okay.
kind of a good thing and kind of a bad thing because bigger counties like Mecklenburg, Wake, Cabarrus can
Mhm.
afford a decent supplement, an extra 1,000 or 2,000, or in the case of Mecklenburg, an extra 8,000 to woo teachers to their county and
Mhm.
keep that's a significant extra chunk of money.
Right.
Um, other counties, like smaller counties, like Pasquotank or,
Mhm.
Vance or places like that, they may
Mhm.
not have any kind of budget like that. Some counties don't offer a supplement at all, and some counties can only offer a very tiny supplement. And so they really can't keep teachers as well as a larger or richer county can. So we were going to ask the school board for a raise in our supplement to
Mhm.
keep teachers in Cabarrus County. And so we approached the school board, we made our speeches, we gave our speeches, and the school board told us what nice speeches they were, but that the county commissioners determined the budget, and we should ask them. So we waited for the next county commissioners meeting and we made our speeches, and the county commissioners said what nice speeches they were, but the superintendent and the school board had to ask for the raise. So we should ask them. So we got ping pong back and forth. And
Good grief.
it was a very good civics lesson for me.
Mhm.
And it also made me see that there were at least some school board members and some county commission members who really didn't understand very well what we did as teachers. Because I remember one of the school board members asking me, oh, isn't it nice that finals are going to be coming up soon and that'll give you a nice break because you can just, roam around the school or take a study hall break. And I said, well, no, I
You
can't. I'll
thumb
be
on, smoke in the bathroom.
exactly. I said, no, I'll be in my room monitoring the kids. I can't leave. Oh, I thought
Mhm.
you could leave. No,
Uh-oh.
no, I
This is
can't.
the school board.
Right. And so, like, once you understood that they should have known this very basic thing, it was really shocking. We got our supplemental increase, which was great,
Good.
and then we wanted to keep it going. We kinda wanted a little watchdog group, so we started this group called Cabarrus County Teachers United. And not long after this, COVID hit,
Mhm.
and, by this time, we had some extremist members on our school board, and I'll just say who they were: Laura Blackwell and Holly, Grimsley and Tim Furr, and they wanted
Mhm.
us back in the classroom as quickly as possible.
I remember that.
Yes, with no, as well, especially Laura, she was ready to send us all back in the classroom with no safety, precautions, and,
Mhm.
they wanted to follow Union County, which was sending the teachers back as quickly as possible. So our, teachers group organized some protests and letter writing and emails and things like that, and, we were, protesting at the county office on
Mhm.
Airport Road, and Kenny Wortman was there, and he was protesting a teacher, who was working at Central. I'm not going to say her name,
Mhm.
but his daughter was in her class, and I guess this teacher had said things about masking, that masking was patriotic, and his daughter had recorded her saying this, and I guess he took it very much amiss for whatever reason, and had signs, saying that this teacher should be fired for saying masking was patriotic and among other things. And he had some, helpers or people who agreed with him.
Mhm.
And, one of them came up to me and, another woman who was standing with me and started, um, kinda, I won't say getting in our face exactly, but just sort
Mhm.
of saying like, "Well, what are you here for?" And we told him, and he was saying, "Oh," and essentially calling us stupid and
Oh,
dumb
that's
and saying
nice.
some incendiary things.
Sassy.
And, I snapped his picture because he had a 3 percenter hat on, and, the 3 percenters are a hate group, in case you don't know. And I posted his picture on our Facebook page and said, "When you're up against trash like this, you know you're on the right side." Well, Kenny's daughter was in the background of this picture, and Laura and Holly and Tim on the school board wanted to pretend that I had been calling Kenny's daughter trash, when it was very apparent that I was calling this man in the hat trash,
Mhm.
and that I was bullying Kenny's daughter. And so I and a lot of other teachers who were at this protest
Mhm.
and who had also been posting things about masking and things like that, were hauled up in front of the school board, um, and questioned. And luckily, I was a member. Luckily, for one, I kept my tenure, so I couldn't be
Mhm.
fired without cause, and they had no cause because it's pretty apparent I was not bullying anybody.
Right.
2, it was also a good thing that I was a member of NCAE because I got free legal representation through them, and my lawyer was with me every step of the way
Mhm.
and was very surprised that any of this was happening. He said, "Usually I represent a teacher who is being questioned by the superintendent, not the school board. This is very silly to me." And I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, it's not so silly to me. It's a little scary." So,
Oh, I bet
this
that was terrifying.
oh, well, it was just very, very odd, especially since Kenny had a whole page dedicated to all of us, and I was very often mentioned by name on this page, and it was very horrifying. Um, But when I was questioned by the school board, they really didn't have a lot to say about the incident itself, but I did get accused of teaching, CRT and teaching woke and all this stuff, and my lawyer kept saying, "Whoa, whoa, what is this about? This has nothing to do with
Mm-hmm.
anything. This is what is this?" And this was right around the time they pushed the old superintendent out who was really good,
Mm-hmm.
and had done his best to try to, protect teachers and try to, um, follow COVID guidelines and protocols. And this was around the time this was before they put Dr. Kopicki in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so anyway, they ended up not really being able to do anything with me because there was nothing there. There was, it was ridiculous. Um, so, I finished the year
Mm-hmm.
and then I spent the summer thinking, do I really want to continue doing this? And I
Yeah.
turned 50 that August, and I thought, no, I don't want to continue teaching with a target on my back. I taught AP language,
Yeah.
which was very controversial, novels and articles and critical thinking, and I taught English, and I don't ever want to censor myself,
Right.
when I teach.
We do the
So
students a disservice too if you have to do that.
exactly, exactly. And so I turned 50 on August 5th, 2021, and I had 21 years in. And so I thought, well, I think I can take a partial retirement. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what I did. I took a partial retirement and I walked dogs for a while. And then in May or April or May of 2022, that's when Laura started gearing up with the idea of book banning.
Mm-hmm.
She started with her literacy committee, and my friend Mary called me, and Mary had been one of the other teachers, who had been hauled up in front of the, school board with a bogus hearing as well. But she was still teaching, and she called me and she said, "Hey, I thought you were gonna be speaking up about all this. Where are you?" And I said, "Well, I am trying to speak out, but all my friends are teachers and they already know this book banning nonsense is going on, and I don't know who
Mm-hmm.
to tell." And she said, "Well, I'm a member of a group called Red Wine and Blue, and they're on Facebook, and you should join it." I was like, "Okay, fair enough." So I joined the group,
Mm-hmm.
and I was, looking over it, and I was like, "Oh, they've got some good stuff here." And I created a post on Red Wine and Blue, and I said, "Hey, help us out in Cabarrus County because here's what's going on." And I talked about, what was going on with the literacy committee and how they were doing all this stuff about walking into classrooms and pulling out books and all this nonsense. Because
Crazy.
Kopicki was the superintendent by then, and so that's when all this was going on. And wasn't I surprised when Janice, who's the director of Red Wine and Blue, messaged me on Facebook and said, "Hey, I'm really interested in what you had to say. That sounds awful. What's happening?" And we ended up chatting.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Yeah, I don't know what to do about it." And she's like, "Oh, well, you need to do something. You can't just let this go." And I said, "Well, yeah, I agree." I said, "But what?" I said, "I don't know. All my friends are teachers and I don't know who to tell." And she's like, "Well, you could start by doing this." And she gave
I was
me like
gonna
a
say,
list
oh,
of
but she
things.
tore you up.
Yes. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess so." And she's like, "Yeah, do these things and let me know how it goes." And I was like, all right." So I started doing the things, like making social media posts and putting it in different places. And a group of parents reached out to me and they said, "Oh, we'd heard about this going on,
Mhm.
and we didn't know how to prove it because every time we called any of the schools, they tell us it's not happening.
Yeah. Nothing to see here.
There's not You're right." And, they said, "We need proof." And I said, "I have proof." I said, "I've got the emails that my teacher friends have sent to me." I said, "And I will send them to you if you redact their names." Or I said, "I'll redact the names, but, you can't say where you got them."
Brought receipts.
Right. And so that's what we did. I sent them all the emails, and so whenever they emailed these administrators and the administrators said, "Oh, no, that's not happening," these parents would say, "Oh, yes, it is," and they'd send those emails saying, "Oh, pull these books, pull those books, we're coming by your room and getting them," and these administrators were like, "Oh, where did you get those emails? How'd you get them?" "Oh, I don't remember. I can't recall."
I
Of
was gonna say you redacted the names for a
course,
reason, and
yes.
they get to redact stuff, so here we
Oh,
are.
yeah, absolutely. And so, these administrators couldn't hide it, and so the parents raised such a ruckus that they actually got put on the literacy committee. And once they got put on the literacy committee, they were in a position to shut it down. So every time a book came to them, "Oh, no, that's fine, we like it. It's great. No, it's perfect. Nope, it's good. We'll take nope, it's great." And so after a month or 2, no more literacy committee.
There you go.
So what happened was, I was able to tell that to Janice, and, come July, when they were looking for Get Out the Vote organizers, it was a temporary job,
Mhm.
I threw my name in the ring, um, and, they hired me, and so I and about, 10 or 11 other women across the state worked as Get Out the Vote organizers for Red, Wine, and Blue. And our job was just essentially having events where we told people about red, wine, and blue. And
Mhm.
we talked about our rally tool, which is how we use friend to friend organizing. So
Yep.
it's essentially what we're doing, talking about the importance of getting out the vote and talking about um, how important it is to vote for this or that candidate and talking about how important it is for this or that issue or whatever.
Mhm.
And that's it in a nutshell. Is friend to friend organizing. It's what
Yeah,
it's
the
what women.
rally tool, that's
Yeah.
really neat. I mean, I knew you could look up that information.
Mhm.
I've just never had it where it was that easy.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and now it's on an app. So it
mhm,
wasn't like that in 2022, but now in 2025, we have everything on an app. It's very
mhm,
easy, it's very central. We can send out actions to our friends. So, with the concealed carry bill that they were talking about in the Senate,
mhm.
that's something that we can tell our friends, if our GA ever gets back in session, and who knows, but,
They gotta come
um
up with a budget, don't they?
yeah,
Or
exactly. So,
yeah.
but, we can say, "Hey," if they're still considering SB 50, we can tell them
Mhm.
that that's not something that we feel safe or comfortable with or whatever. Make sure to call Senator, um, who's my senator? Oh, heck. I'm trying to think of my
Was
state
it state
senator, Senator
senator?
Meismer.
Oh,
What?
it took me a minute because I was like, "Well, I think we"
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm talking about state senator, sorry. Yeah,
Mhm,
state senator Meismer. Um Yeah, so it makes it very easy for people to contact their friends. But anyway, that was my job from
mhm,
July to November in 2022. And I was thinking, well, once this is over, maybe I could try to find another place to organize for because I really got a taste for it. But Janice talked to 5 of us after the season was over and said, "Well, we really do want to establish a presence in North Carolina. We want to build our
mhm,
infrastructure and we want to keep on here. And so, we'd like you to stay on." And I stayed on along with 5 others, as I've said. And so we've established, quite a good infrastructure in North Carolina.
mhm,
We've uh, we've had educational salons, we've had speakers, do salons with us, and we've had Superintendent Mo Green talk to our members. We travel all over the state, as you said. I do Cabarrus County. I also do Forsyth and Western North Carolina.
mhm,
Um, and then, we also have my colleague Lori, who does Charlotte and also New Hanover County, which is
Mhm.
Wilmington. And then Diane does most of Eastern North Carolina. And then Tori does Fayetteville and all that central area. And Tanya does Greensboro and all that
Mhm.
area. And Janice does South Charlotte and pretty much everywhere else in North Carolina that you
I
can think
think you have the best area, but I'm
of. Oh, I
biased.
do too. I do too. I love my area. Yeah.
So, talk about shifting to today
Mhm.
because things are different. I mean, even
Sure.
from COVID, and COVID was my first exposure to good old fashioned Cabarrus County politics. So,
Ah, yes.
and I went, well, logged on to school board meetings and then went to some of the school board meetings. And even from that point to now, I've seen a shift. So, what is your take? Kind of starting. We all kind of know the national picture is just it is a hot mess. What
Mm.
is your take on what's happening locally, especially considering, what's going to be happening with healthcare and with Medicaid? What are you seeing on the ground?
Well, people are frightened, you
Mhm,
know. Um, One thing that I can say is there I think everybody feels that fear, but I think that they are approaching it differently. Some people are throwing themselves into the fight
mhm.
because they have to.
Yeah,
My friend Stacy, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind my sharing this story. She shares this story with everyone. She has a very medically fragile child,
mhm,
and Emma was born very early. Um, she has specially formulated food that costs $45,000 a year. She needs round the clock nursing care because she cannot speak. Her vocal cords did not develop. Um,
does she have a trach?
she did for a long time, for a long time, and because of her medical fragility, Medicaid fills in the gaps.
Mhm,
The employer's insurance that Stacy's family has covers a lot. Medicaid fills in the rest.
mhm,
But with the cuts to Medicaid, as Stacy puts it, it is like starting a countdown clock to the end of Emma's life. And Stacy fights and is very vocal about these cuts because she has to be. She has lived these last 12 years doing everything she can to save her daughter at
yeah,
every step of the way. Um, and there are many people like that, people trying to save their parents, their children, their loved ones themselves. They fight because they have to.
mhm,
There are people who maybe get a sense of fear because that's very pervasive right now, but who
mhm,
feel frozen. They don't know what they can really do. And so they do nothing. They don't wanna
mhm.
to deal with this, and I get it.
Well, and there's
We
a helplessness to it. There's
Sure, of course.
something very there's a word I'm looking for. You're an English teacher. You can probably it's almost like imposing, like
It's a learned
the weather's
helpless.
coming and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right, right. Um, I get it,
Mhm,
and you feel like, "Well, can't do anything, might as well do what I can or have a good time
mhm.
while I can, or it's not affecting me, so who cares?" Or
Yeah. Or I'm kind of trying to at least find an umbrella or something, you know?
sure, sure,
Um,
you know?
so
Um
what's shifted in your work now with all of this changing? Is there any shift in your priorities, or is it just kind of waiting to see what's gonna happen? Everything's really unpredictable right now.
Well, everything is very unpredictable, and what we find ourselves dealing a lot with right now is a sense of burnout and a sense of exhaustion
Mhm,
because so many people are feeling that. If you've been in this fight for a while,
mhm,
or if you have been in this fight and have been throwing everything you've got into it, you are feeling exhausted and you are
mhm,
feeling you're burning the candle at both ends,
mhm,
and to those people I say take a break. Step
Right.
back. You need to. You need to have an outlet. You need to have well, you've got your art. I think
Mhm.
that's wonderful. I
Yeah.
think yeah. I think that's a lifesaver. I think if you've got some sort of creative outlet or path,
Mhm.
you absolutely need to use that. Um,
Yeah.
and if you don't, I strongly urge you to get one.
Yeah.
Um, I think you need a circle of friends around you. I think you need a support system. I think you need people you can talk to about not politics, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Uh,
and I mean, the community has been even I think when we did that first meeting and you were like, write down the people in your
mhm,
circle, and I hadn't realized because I'd been really sick last year that I didn't really have a circle, and
mhm.
yesterday, a couple of my dearest friends came over, and even my husband said he could hear us laughing out on the porch,
Yeah,
and it was a welcome relief. We talked a little bit about politics, but then we
sure.
talked, and the kids were around, and it was nice to be with a couple of people that shared what I was feeling, and,
Yes,
we didn't come up with any answers, but we still we had ideas, like, we're gonna make protest signs, we're gonna you
sure.
know, stuff like that, but I know and I don't wanna make this get too long, I know you've got your evening to get to,
Oh,
but
you're good, you're good.
one of the things that I wanna pick your brain about, because I know this sounds like it's what red, wine, and blue does. There are a lot of people out there, I'm not in a situation like with Medicare or Medicaid yet, got a few years, but I know there are a lot of people that are differently abled like me that, like I wrote to Zora and Mamdani and I said, look, can
Oh,
I
yeah.
paint some postcards for you? Or can I, I can paint, of course, and you get this form letter and they're like, look, everyone's offering to help. And, so, but it's just kind of you feel like, okay, no, I can't stay on my feet for a long time. And, I can't really get around like other people can, but there are things I can do. And trying to figure out those tools to tell people that are differently abled or older, or what are some of the things you guys do as far as like, what you had said about writing postcards or just to
Yeah.
kind of empower people in different walks of life. Does that
Well,
make sense?
yeah, absolutely it does. I think you hit on something great because what I was going to say before, like, if you're immersed in politics already and feeling burnout, we urge you to step back. But
Mhm,
if you are just kind of sitting there doom scrolling and feeling helpless and, I don't know what to do and I don't know where to start, then
mhm,
my advice is opposite. Take take an action,
mhm,
find some action that you can do, and and that will make you feel less helpless. So you
yeah,
were asking, what can you do just sitting at home? There's lots.
mhm,
You can get involved in postcard campaigns, and you
mhm,
can, if you're artistic, you can make beautiful postcards. And if you're not artistic, you can make funny postcards. You can find funny slogans and make stick figures and things like that.
mhm,
And if you're neither of those things, you can still write the postcard on the back and address everything. You can still do that. If you're not
mhm,
a postcard person, you can be a letter to the editor person because believe it or not, a lot of people still get their news from the good old fashioned newspaper and they still read letters to the editor and they still can be swayed by a well written appeal about some story. It can make them see something they hadn't considered before. Consider writing a letter to the Charlotte Observer or to your local paper. I mean, we have the Independent Tribune, so there's
mhm,
that. Um, I Substack is a very popular medium, and in Cabarrus County, we have Chris Miller who writes, an excellent Substack. But there's no reason people couldn't write their own
mhm.
Substack and their own ideas and things like that, and that can be cathartic, if nothing
Yeah,
else. So
I know it
there's
has been for me and getting that information on Substack too is very welcoming.
Oh, yeah, and you can
So,
also respond to other people's ideas and
mhm,
get your own thoughts and ideas out there, so that's something else. You can create social media posts,
mhm,
which is what I did and got, some eyes on my social media post, and that's how the parents got on that literacy committee eventually, you
and got
know?
rid of the
And
literacy.
got rid of it, so
Yeah,
that's something that you can do from your home,
mhm,
you know? Red Wine and Blue has the app,
mhm,
and, you can add contacts, you can add your friends' names, you can look
mhm,
them up on the voter rolls, and that's all public information, so you're
and
not
that's under Rally, right?
right,
Under
it's
the
yes.
okay,
Mhm. So
and I'll put the information in the description, so if people wanna
sure,
get the app,
sure.
hopefully.
Right, and so you can, you look them up on the app, make sure they're registered. I know we all think our friends are registered, but they're not. Like, when I
Mhm.
was entering friends' names and I would look them up, I'm like, "Oh my god, Natasha hasn't voted." I mean,
Yep.
that's terrible,
Mhm,
"Oh my goodness, Phyllis isn't registered," "This is terrible." So, sometimes people are not as politically concerned as maybe we would hope or expect,
mhm,
um, and you could sort of jog them in a nice way and say, "Oh, hey,
mhm,
are you sure you're registered? You might wanna check that registration. This is North Carolina. We tend to kick people off the voter rolls. You might wanna check."
yeah,
So there's that. And you can also be sending rally actions to them. You can remind them of when to go out and vote.
mhm,
We call rally canvassing from your couch,
mhm,
so doing 5 or 10 actions a day, it really does add up after a while. So those
mhm,
are all things you can do.
and we have a municipal election coming up here.
Yes, and
Okay.
that is something you really can affect because,
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember Steve saying how many people vote in the municipal elections,
It was
but
abysmal.
it is abysmal, and it's so few people making a decision for all of the people in Cabarrus County.
Mhm,
It's really terrible. So if we could get 1,000 more people out to vote, that would
mhm,
be amazing.
yeah,
And if those 1,000 people would vote for good candidates, we
mhm.
wouldn't need to worry about having extremists in our city council or running for mayor or anything like that. We wouldn't need to worry about that.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that I'm doing right now with the Substack is kind of just researching each of the candidates and like, okay, not so much a party affiliation, but like what are their accomplishments? What's their education?
Sure.
What have they stood for or against? And, I'd like to do some more things like this and maybe not necessarily like a video format or, maybe one or the other. But like when I've tried to find stuff on Substack, a lot of it's behind a paywall. And
Yes, that's
that's a
unfortunate.
problem.
Mhm.
So for at least because people don't have the money to do that right
Right.
now. I mean, and it gets down to when I mean, I know it's like if it's just a couple of bucks, but that adds up.
It does.
And, if we can that's what I'm kind of wanting to do through this is make, okay, this is free.
Mhm.
Donate if you want to donate, but you don't have to. I mean, I'm just sitting here waiting on my ankle to heal, right?
Exactly.
So, but yeah, and I mean, because I think like with the other articles, it has a lot more current events and everything. And for me, I'm really going to shift more towards healthcare. But I found out too, people always ask me, like, what about this candidate or what about that candidate? You want to tell people to do their research,
Mhm.
but now that's probably not the best answer. Having them be able to go to a place or go to a
Sure.
group of people. So as far as and just to kind of put a bow on this, what do we have coming up? Like, I know in the app you have a lot of different events that come up that you can sign up for. It takes you to, is it Mobilize It?
EA is,
Okay.
our yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So, with the municipal election, I know we have other events, and then we have, you're going to be in a different county for the second No Kings.
Yes, I'll be speaking in
Okay.
Forsyth.
Okay. I hope we can get a video of that. I really want to see
Yeah, I'm gonna
it. So,
ask if somebody will, videotape that, yep.
okay.
Videotape,
And,
lemme listen to me age myself. Record it.
Yeah, bring the VHS and so
Exactly.
what was it? They had Beta? Nobody ever had those tapes
No,
anymore.
we never had beta.
So, and I guess just the last thing that I wanna ask you, because I know what keeps you going? What keeps you inspired? There's a lot of bad news. I mean, and even is it funny cat memes?
I do love a good
Yoga.
funny cat meme. I
Yeah,
do love that.
yeah.
What keeps me going? You know, I keep thinking during World War II, my grandmother waited for my grandfather to come home from the Second World War, and
Mhm,
she gave up a lot. Everybody did during World War II. They gave up rubber and nylons, and they grew
mhm,
victory gardens, and they had curfews, and they did all that very willingly,
mhm.
to help the war effort because they believed in it, and they helped each other. And I know that during the Great Depression, Americans reached out and helped each other. And I know
Mhm.
I'm eliding over a lot of history, and I know Americans didn't always help each other
No, but
as
there's a
much as we
positive
could.
example, right?
Right.
That we can go by. I mean, you
You
know,
know,
if you look at my family history, it's, well, I'm from Germany.
right.
So
But
this is personal.
right. But
So,
we've gone through hard times in this
mhm,
country. And every time I think, "Oh, I'm getting tired of fighting this stupid authoritarianism," I think,
mhm.
"Well, how dare I?" What have I really given up? What sacrifices have I really made in the fight against
Yeah,
authoritarianism?
that's
Um,
that's true. Wow. I mean,
I
compared to the
haven't.
people ahead of us.
Exactly. I think of all the people who've come before who've given up so much more to
Mhm,
keep this country safe and free,
right.
and, so little is being asked of me. It's the least I can do.
That's true. I saw the darndest thing, and I may have brought this up when I was talking to you before, but people that were wailing and hollering about Civil War, and I had to laugh because it was like, yeah, it's gonna take the first time of you going to the gas station and not being able to fill up your truck, and you're
Exactly.
gonna be done with it. I mean, I don't think that people here understand what they're calling for or what
No.
they're asking for, and
These are the same idiots crying over masks. Give me
oh,
a
but not
break.
now. They're
Oh,
fine with
oh,
masks.
no, no.
But on the same token, like what you were saying, there's so little. I mean, when my mom was very, very young at the end of the war, but I know that if I look back on, people in my family that have passed away, there's no way I could stand there and let somebody be taken, you know?
Right,
I just they would have to take me first. And my mom
right.
was able to come here. I know so many people that were able to come here, and this country is a better place because she's here. And I just it just blows my mind how much we forgot about humanity. So,
I agree. I
yeah.
agree. I think of how my great-grandparents were always so proud to be Americans. They came over
Mhm,
on the boat from Italy, they wanted to speak English, they wanted their children to speak English, they were so proud to have whatever job they could take over here because they wanted their kids to have better lives.
mhm. They
What the
probably knew
hell
their
happened to
neighbors and yeah,
them?
exactly. They knew their
No.
neighbors and worked their butts off.
Mhm.
So, goodness. Well, and I'll wrap this up 'cause we're perfect timing, so that's
Oh,
great.
wonderful.
But I'm gonna put your information and what is the best way for people to reach you? Is it through Red, Wine, Blue?
Yes, would you
Okay.
like me to put my, email, for Red, Wine, and Blue in the chat with everyone in the studio? I see that there, or I could send it to you.
You could yeah, just text it to me, and then what I'll do is when this posts everything, the red, white, and blue, and then I'm gonna try to find something to get people to the app
I have
as
a link,
well.
so I'll send
Perfect,
that to you as well. Okay,
perfect. All right. Well,
cool.
thank you guys. I hope this was helpful, and I'm gonna end now, but hang out for me, okay, Kim?
Oh, sure,
All
thanks.
right, let's see if I can get oh, my mouse went to sleep. Here we go.